Hello and welcome to this special interview with HOMTV. I'm Samantha Diehl. Today we'll be speaking to Dan Opsommer, the newly named Assistant Manager and Director of Public Works and Engineering for Meridian Township. Dan formerly served as the Chief of Staff for 69th State Representative Julie Brixey, as well as the Township Board as a trustee. Thank you for joining us today, Dan.
Absolutely, wonderful to be here.
First off, I know you are no stranger to being interviewed by HOMTV, so for those who don't know, can you tell us about your educational and professional background?
Yeah, so my name's Dan Opsommer. I recently left the Township Board, but was born and raised here in the Ingham County and Lansing region. Attended Michigan State University, and actually got my start in electoral politics, running campaigns. My degree is in history and journalism, and I've worked in the legislature now for a decade, and just left last week for this new opportunity with the township. So very excited and just wrapping up my first week here on the job.
You obviously have been involved with Meridian Township in multiple ways, but what is it about this position that made you want to join as a staff member and then leave the board?
Yeah, so the Director of Public Works and Engineering obviously oversees two very important departments here in the township, and so it's a cross-section. It crosses private development. Our engineering team reviews all of our private development projects, but then also all the public facilities, right? Roads, pathways, trails, our parks. So there's a wide scope, and with that comes a lot of interest. You really have an opportunity to set the future course for the community because there's so much that comes through the office.
And why don't you talk about the time you've served on any boards or commissions here at Meridian Township?
Yeah, so I've had the fortune during my time on the Township Board to serve as a liaison to CATA, to the Township Transportation Commission, to the ZBA, Land Preservation Advisory Board, and I got my start on the Planning Commission here in local service with the township. So I've probably served on roughly half of the various, or a third of the various boards and commissions that we have here in the township, and then of course interfaced on issues that come from each board and commission. So when you have that opportunity to serve on the board, you see all of the various issues that do come up in the township.
There are many changes on the board level, not only just you stepping down, but with the recent loss of Supervisor Stejka. Can you tell us how you're feeling about these changes and the future of the board and township leadership?
Yeah, so we've got big shoes to fill with Ron's passing. Ron was a staple in the community for decades, served over 22 years on the Opsommer School Board, as well as his 9 years on the Township Board, and to many, Ron was kind of like a father of here in Meridian Township from a public vantage point. He's touched a lot of lives, and so there's certainly going to be a void there that the board will have to fill in time. And it also brings, with my resignation and the unfortunate circumstance with Ron's passing, the board does have a lot on its plate just in terms of filling those two vacancies. And the timing is unique. So with the timing, because it's this early in the 4-year term, whoever's appointed to those vacancies will have to run in a special election in August and November of this year, so it creates some timing circumstances too, which obviously is going to have some impact on who's interested and who applies. So, but Manager Walsh and I will continue to work with the board on filling those vacancies and making sure that we get the board back to full capacity. And
what's the application process like? Can anyone apply?
Yes, if you're a township resident, you are able to apply. So the only prohibition that we have on seeking public office is that you are a resident of the township. And so the application window is open to anyone and everyone who serves or resides here in the township. If folks are interested, they should contact the township. We can answer any questions that they may or may not have on what all is involved in serving on the township board and serving the public.
So this week was your first week in the new position. Can you kind of tell me about how the transition is going and maybe what you've learned so far?
So it was an interesting first week because my first day coincided with the Opsommer Road closure for the new bridge construction project. So obviously having that southbound traffic closed on Okemos Road has been an adjustment for the community, and we empathize with what's going to be a very difficult construction year, right? So that has comprised and consumed a lot of my first week, just monitoring and assessing, along with the police department, how the detours are actually functioning and performing. We did see a lot of southbound traffic initially going toward the bridge. That has begun to subside and kind of level off. But any issues that folks are having, they should bring to the township so we can work with them. But there's a whole host of things that I've already delved in on this first week, from our solar RFP that we're going to do for the police station this year to engineering assessments for the Village of Okemos project, and working on our 2022 local road program. So we're working on getting that RFP completed so that we can start road work in May on the township's local road program.
All right. Yeah, the Okemos Road closure, that's a pretty big, it's a pretty big project to come into your first week. And I know you kind of touched on some of these, but what are some of the other bigger projects you will be taking on in your position?
The local road project or program is really the biggest one, I think, as it runs, the entire construction season, and there have been years where we haven't been able to get through the entire road program. The construction industry, just like everyone, is struggling to find talent here in this, pandemic economy, right? So there's capacity issues, there's supply chain issues with the actual, construction materials and everything else. So that's probably going to be the biggest hurdle. Our solar projects, we've kind of got that down. We've been doing that now for 3 years. But I think navigating the detours is going to be the biggest hurdle this year in particular. So we just met with MDOT today, and the construction schedule is still tentative, but when the Grand River construction project commences, that's going to add another layer of difficulty for east-west traffic movement through the township, as well as the north-south detour for the Okemos Road bridge closure. And so we just ask that residents kind of bear with us as we try to navigate this difficult construction year. I think the good news is that we won't have 2 consecutive very difficult construction seasons, right? We worked very diligently to make sure that we're aligning those 2 key projects so that it's one difficult year of detours rather than having two or three difficult years in a short period of time. And with all that road work comes other asset management as we look to our water and our sanitary sewer. So we do try to coincide asset management projects. We don't want to rip out a new road to do those water and sewer projects later. So we've coordinated with MDOT on all the water and sewer work and pathway work. Of course, that south pathway has been sinking into the wetland across from Playmakers. So just making sure that we're carrying out all that asset management this year while we do all that construction.
Why do you feel like you are the best person for this position?
So in my day job at the legislature, I've had to be a generalist who, has a good pulse on a lot of different issues and a lot of areas of public policy. So maybe a master of none, but a generalist and a specialist in many. And with public works and engineering, you get a lot of that. So the things that cross your desk are unexpected, and the scope is very broad. And so I think my professional background gives me a good experience and knowledge base to try to manage this. And we have specialists, right? We have engineers here in the township who really delve into the nuts and bolts when we get down to project level detail. But then there's also having foresight and working with residents. So right now we're already working with residents on a prospective 2023 local road program project, and we're learning from some past issues that we've had in Tacoma Hills and trying to make sure that if there's any changes to a roadway and that right-of-way that would impact people's frontages, their front yards and stuff like that, or have any issues with trees and buffering on neighboring properties, we're working through that ahead of time and doing due diligence. So that's something Having worked with so many HOAs and so many residents over the years, I have a very good handle on what's going to trip up neighborhoods, right, when these construction projects come through, because sometimes we do have external engineers who help with our local road program, but they're not always cognizant or thinking about the resident vantage point. And so that's kind of where I come into play, and trying to make sure that we're having foresight on what resident expectations might be on these projects.
Yeah, and obviously the residents have very strong opinions about all these different projects, and some are more impacted than others. So it's definitely important to have that good communication with them.
And that's exactly what we kind of learned through last year's local road program, where we did some work in Tacoma Hills, and we want to make sure we have a good runoff factor, meaning that, you know, the road has a good grade to get the water, stormwater runoff, because we want that road to last its entire expected lifetime. And part of that is making sure that the snow thaw and the stormwater is draining off the road properly, and part of that is having ditches and drainage adjacent to the roadway. And so part of the 2021 program involved excavating some of those ditches where we've had soil erosion, right, and that ditch is filled in over time and hasn't been properly maintained. But when someone's front yard is changing, or when a tree line or a tree screening may change due to a road needing to be brought up to modern standards, that's something that residents are going to have strong feelings about. And so we need to think about that in advance, usually a year in advance, right, and start troubleshooting those issues. So that's something I've been working on just this first week, but having fun with it.
What are you most looking forward to with this new opportunity?
I touched on it before, but the scope of work is something that very much interests me. It's fun to navigate all of these projects, and it leaves a legacy, right? Whether it's like the pedestrian bridge just south of downtown Okemos, or the new boardwalk adjacent to Okemos Road on the north side of Central Park, or the MSU to Lake Lansing Trail connection in its entirety. These are pieces of infrastructure that are going to be here long after I'm even with the township. And so it's just kind of fun to shape history, at this moment in time for the township.
And is there anything else you'd like to wish or to say to our viewers who are watching?
I would just encourage residents, if they're having an issue, they can always contact the Department of Public Works and Engineering. For Public Works, they can always reach out to us at dpw@meridian.mi.us. And then I would just note for viewers that we are having one issue with our telephone provider. So our telephone provider did switch and upgrade service most recently, and our emergency phone line that we have been advertising for many years now is not currently working. We are working to troubleshoot that with AT&T and get that phone line operational again. But if there are water or sewer emergencies, they can contact us 24/7 at 517-853-0911. So we encourage residents to reach out, even if, whether it's a road project or a water and sewer break, please contact us, and we're here to help.
Great. Well, congratulations on your new role again, and thank you so much for joining us.